Sharp steel spikes waited to shred my tires right on my own driveway. Karen Williams, our psycho HOA president, had turned my property into a death trap because I left my trash cans out 6 minutes too long. When I saw those spikes, my heart nearly stopped. This wasn't a joke. This was deliberate. I always thought Karen was just a cranky old lady. What I discovered that morning proved I was completely wrong. The woman I thought I knew was hiding something terrifying. Tell me in the comments, what would you do if someone turned your home into a danger zone? After 8 hours in Mrs. Patterson's attic in 95 degrees Florida heat, covered in ductwork dust and insulation, I was exhausted and smelled awful. I wanted one thing: a scalding shower, a cold beer, and my couch. Simple plan for a Monday. I turned onto Palmetto Springs Drive and froze. Professional-grade spike strips span my driveway. Metal teeth bolted down with military precision. They looked permanent. I stepped out slowly and circled the equipment. Heavy-duty build, faded auction stickers, government surplus. Someone paid real money and knew exactly what they were doing. This was planned, not impulsive. My neighbor Marcus came out. Marcus is the kind of guy you want on your side. Former military police, practical, sharp-eyed, and with a dry suburban dad humor that makes chaos bearable. He said an installation crew had been here around noon, an official-looking truck, hard hats, traffic cones, like a real city operation. But Marcus also noticed the little things, and if he thought something was off, it was. At my mailbox, someone had zip-tied a stack of official-looking documents. The top sheet was on genuine city letterhead announcing an emergency traffic calming installation for my address. The signature read K. Williams, Karen Williams, the same woman who'd fined me last month for leaving my trash cans out 6 minutes. I've been helping Mrs. Clark with groceries. 6 minutes. Questions piled up. How does an HOA president get police-grade traffic control? What permit allows permanent barriers on private property? Why was I singled out when others openly violated HOA rules? It felt like stepping into an alternate reality where HOA presidents had law enforcement power and property rights were suggestions. I call my sister Beth immediately. If there's one thing 36 years of life taught me, it's don't confront crazy without legal backup. Beth reads contracts for fun and has zero tolerance for bullies. Get over here now, I told her. Karen's done something insane. I'm leaving the office now. Don't do anything stupid, she texted back. Marcus pointed out a 2x4 bridge someone had placed across the spikes so a van could get in. The irony was brutal. Karen installed a trap, then modified it so I could still use my driveway. It was like digging a moat and then building a plank to cross it. Then my phone buzzed. Hope you enjoyed the surprise. This is just phase 1 of community standards enforcement. You have 48 hours to comply or things get much worse. K. Williams. Tuesday morning, Beth pulled into my driveway at 7 a.m., briefcase in hand, and that look that meant a legal demolition was imminent. I'd already missed a service call because of the spikes, losing money I couldn't afford in peak season. Beth examined the permit with laser focus. These signatures look traced, Jake, she said after minutes of scrutiny. Real letterhead, but the authorization format doesn't match city standards. The codes are wrong. Someone forged this to look official. That's where we stand. My driveway blocked by military-grade spikes, a forgery signed by the HOA president, and a 48-hour thread in my phone. What would you do next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Having a lawyer for a sister comes with certain advantages. Over coffee, Beth and I build a strategy, document everything, stay professional, and get Karen on record. The goal wasn't to argue. It was to let Karen incriminate herself while we built an airtight case. People like this always overplay their hand when they think they're winning, Beth said. She showed up with her legal pad and phone recording, making it clear this wasn't just a neighbor squabble anymore. We approached Karen's house together, and she opened the door like she'd been rehearsing. HOA polo shirt, smug smile, and a binder thick with paperwork. She acted like the president of a small country, not a suburban HOA. Everything's legal, she declared, citing an emergency traffic calming installation. Then she slipped, admitting on record that the spike strips were aimed at my business. Commercial vehicles don't belong in driveways. Property values suffer. I fix air conditioners, not run a drug ring, but her words exposed the real motive: control, intimidation, and punishment. At the window behind her, her husband Dave appeared, pale and uneasy. The way he vanished when she noticed him told me he knew more than he wanted to admit. That's when Marcus joined us with photos and auction records. This gear was never approved for residential use, he explained. Permits, engineering oversight, none of that's here. Harassing your neighbor definitely wasn't on the application. Karen's confidence cracked. Beth delivered the warning. You have 24 hours to provide legitimate permits, or we file for a restraining order citing property rights violations, business interference, and fraud. Karen puffed up. I'm the authority here. HOA bylaws give me power over community standards. She truly believed neighborhood rules outweighed the law. Walking back, Marcus pulled me aside. 3 houses went up for sale this week. Realtors are warning buyers about HOA instability. Property values are already dropping. That hit like a brick. This wasn't just about my driveway anymore. Karen's crusade was tanking the neighborhood's biggest investment. And when money's involved, allies vanish fast. Why hadn't the other board members stopped her? Either they were clueless or something else was keeping them silent. Marcus thought the same. This smelled bigger than a power trip. The gear, the paperwork, and the targeted approach suggested planning and resources beyond a normal homeowner. Wednesday morning, Beth returned from City Hall with a grim look. The permits are completely fraudulent, she announced, spreading official city documents across my kitchen table. Someone had copied real letterhead, but used authorization codes that don't exist in the city database. This wasn't a sloppy prank. It was document fraud, a felony. Beth explained that legitimate traffic calming requires months of studies, neighbor notices, engineering approvals, and several municipal sign-offs. None of that existed here. We filed for an emergency hearing that afternoon. Watching Beth present the forgeries was like watching an artist work. She laid out the fake permits, the property rights violations, the business interference, and the harassment pattern. The judge stared at the forged paperwork in disbelief. Do you understand document fraud is a felony? He asked Karen. She argued HOA authority until threatened with contempt. The court granted a temporary restraining order. Remove the spikes within 24 hours or face charges. That evening, the same crew returned and dismantled the installation under court supervision. It was sweet justice and public humiliation rolled into one. Then Dave Williams pulled me aside, pale and quiet. This isn't over, he whispered. She won't accept this. She'll escalate, and it'll be worse than spike strips. The fear in his voice made me realize we weren't dealing with petty HOA drama. I celebrated with a beer and felt victorious for about 12 hours. Then Thursday morning, my business phone wouldn't stop ringing. My largest commercial client called. We need to talk about safety reviews that just appeared online. My stomach dropped. Losing that account would be disastrous. Within minutes, more clients called with the same worry. Overnight, coordinated reviews had been posted across platforms. Detailed, technical complaints about electrical code violations and unprofessional conduct. They read like they'd come from an industry expert, and they referenced the HOA conflict to make the attacks seem credible. I watched my 5-star rating fall as dozens of identical, well-researched fake reviews detonated my reputation. This wasn't random revenge. It was a calculated online smear campaign aimed to destroy my livelihood. They were attacking my ability to earn a living. The fake reviews read like industry reports, technical, convincing, and detailed enough to trigger real licensing board scrutiny. Beth's probe into the campaign revealed chilling premeditation. The post traced to IPs at coffee shops and public Wi-Fi around Karen's neighborhood. This wasn't a late-night tantrum. It was a coordinated operation using multiple locations, fake accounts, and researched attacks that reference my HOA dispute to lend credibility. The state licensing board called. Anonymous complaints had prompted a formal investigation. Karen's smear campaign had escalated into regulatory danger that could cost me license, insurance, and clients. What began as a trash can spat had become a career-ending assault. We stopped counting lost clients and started gathering evidence. Beth turned my kitchen into a war room. Folders, timelines, and printouts everywhere. Marcus mapped call times, posting windows, and screenshots. Every timestamp, every edit, every suspicious account went under the microscope. The pattern emerged. Same cadence, same faux expert tone, different masks. Forensics turned suspicion into proof. Posting clusters matched minute-level windows and device habits. Marcus's ring footage sealed the link. 3 late-night stints, Starbucks, a 24-hour diner, and a McDonald's, all matching spikes of review activity. He showed me Karen on camera at each location, hunched over a laptop and typing for hours. The timestamps aligned perfectly with the fake review clusters. Then Dave Williams quietly handed over something worse. Recordings he'd made of Karen planning the campaign. He works in IT support and had been secretly documenting her. The videos showed her scripting believable technical complaints, researching licensing rules, and scheduling posts to maximize damage. She'd even tracked my clients and contract deadlines in spreadsheets. This proved the campaign wasn't reactive. It was premeditated. Someone had spent months studying my business and building an identity network to make the attacks look organic. With Marcus's footage and Dave's recordings, the smear became criminal evidence. Coordinated business interference, harassment, and likely fraud. That's when the story shifted from personal revenge to prosecutable crime. We had timestamps, IP traces, surveillance, and an insider confession. The digital trail didn't just point at a vindictive neighbor. It pointed at Karen, methodically trying to destroy my livelihood. They weren't just trying to wreck my online reputation. They were attacking every way I made a living. Karen called my suppliers, warning them I'd been cited. She called my insurer, asking about coverage for contractors with licensing complaints. She even whispered rumors to other contractors to isolate me. It was information warfare dressed up as neighborhood politics. Beth dug deeper and found the fake accounts were built months in advance. Realistic profiles, posting histories, and believable personas designed to pass casual checks. This wasn't slapdash trolling. It was identity work. Months of prep to make the attacks look organic when they launched. The scope felt wrong for a DIY grudge. IP rotation, crafted posting cadence, researched industry jargon, and regulatory gaming suggested either real criminal skill or outside professional help. Marcus had found a worrying pattern. 3 other contractors had been review bombed this year using the same techniques. Either someone was running a business destruction service, or Karen had been practicing on others before targeting me. Beth followed the surplus trail next and went pale. The serials on the spike strips weren't supposed to be in civilian hands, retired hardware that should have been destroyed. She cataloged the copies, sealed them as evidence, and told me to let the legal filings do the talking at first light. Friday brought state licensing investigators to my door, and a turning point. They'd seen fake complaints before, and in about 15 minutes, concluded these were fabricated. Your licensing is current, the lead investigator said. These complaints read like internet research, not real inspections. Their report validated what we suspected. Malicious, coordinated attacks meant to intimidate and bankrupt me, but poorly executed enough to be exposed. Marcus's military contacts tracked the procurement. Karen paid roughly $3,000 at a county auction, falsifying intended use to procure the spike strips. That's procurement fraud, a federal exposure layered on top of the state-level harassment and false reporting. By the end of the week, Beth's scope had expanded. We weren't just dealing with HOA abuse anymore. We had document fraud, business interference, false reporting to state agencies, procurement fraud, and systematic harassment, a collection of felonies that could land someone in prison. The evidence painted Karen Williams not as a strict HOA president, but as a criminal hiding behind suburban authority. Dave Williams handed over video archives showing her researching procurement rules, rehearsing fake complaints, and coordinating with so-called enforcement consultants. He suspected they worked with other HOA presidents, suggesting Karen was part of a wider network of authoritarian schemes. The spike strips exposed her worst violation yet. Traffic control gear like that is restricted to law enforcement or licensed security companies. Private installation with forged permits created layers of state and federal crimes. Marcus explained she'd broken more than a dozen regulations just by buying the equipment, and the fake paperwork made it a multi-jurisdictional case. As investigators closed in, Karen scrambled, calling the auction house to claim misunderstandings and insisting her forged permits were clerical errors. But every call only added to her obstruction of justice. Beth shook her head. She's digging her hole deeper. The fallout spread fast. Insurance flagged the entire community for loss of coverage. Marcus called an emergency session. Protect the neighborhood now or watch it collapse. Dave's recordings revealed something even worse. Karen was documenting her harassment playbook like a course to sell. She filmed herself explaining enforcement strategies and equipment acquisition, apparently planning to monetize her methods for other HOAs. It wasn't just personal revenge. It was criminal entrepreneurship. By Friday, federal investigators realized this was bigger than one neighborhood. Forged permits, falsified auction records, business interference. It all suggested either seasoned criminal partners or someone with unusual expertise. Beth noted, this level of sophistication doesn't happen the first time. Saturday morning, the HOA's emergency meeting exploded with residents, insurance reps, reporters, and county officials. For the first time, homeowners who once ignored the drama were furious. Karen's vendetta had tanked property values, risked insurance cancellation, and stained the community's reputation. The insurance rep gave a brutal ultimatum. Coverage would end Monday unless Karen was removed from power and all illegal installations taken down. Without insurance, homes would become unsellable, mortgages void, and families financially ruined. Realtor Jennifer Miller sealed it with data. Property values had already dropped 12% in 2 weeks. Buyers were avoiding the neighborhood, calling it unstable and unsafe. The Spike Strip scandal had become a national symbol of HOA abuse, and Karen Williams had united her community against her. Neighbors testified to a pattern: petty violation notices, intimidatory inspections, and threats over trivial issues. A months-long campaign of harassment that culminated in the Spike Strips. One resident said it plainly. The Spikes weren't an isolated incident. They were the climax of a deliberate campaign to bully anyone who questioned Karen. Then Dave Williams did the unthinkable. He stood up and played the recordings he'd hidden. Hours of Karen rehearsing false complaints, coordinating equipment buys, and scripting attacks. For the first time, the community heard her plotting in her own voice. She's been planning systematic destruction of neighbors' lives for months, he said, voice trembling. That admission shifted everything. Faced with mounting evidence and financial risk, the board voted to remove Karen unanimously. Even her defenders folded when insurance exposure and falling property values were on the line. One board member summed it up: insurance and property values matter more than protecting someone who's committed felonies in our name. Karen's reaction was instant and theatrical. She ranted about conspiracies, denounced the evidence as fake, and proclaimed that only her standards kept the neighborhood livable. In the chaos, she stormed toward the exit and walked straight into the community center's glass door. A loud, humiliating thud captured by dozens of phones and the local news. The minor bump into the glass became an emblem, entitlement crashing into reality. Local cameras filmed the meltdown. Clips went online within hours and quickly went viral. Nationwide viewers sent in stories of their own HOA nightmares, turning Karen into a symbol of suburban power gone toxic. During the cleanup, Dave accidentally revealed something even worse: a storage unit filled with training materials. Reporters and investigators flocked to that lead. What had been a local disaster now looked like a product, an actual course on effective enforcement. The storage unit was a mini studio, lights, backdrops, and modules labeled with euphemisms like effective contractor elimination. Module 7, apparently, covered how to neutralize a contractor competitor. The idea that Karen had intended to package and sell her harassment playbook, training other HOA leaders to weaponize authority, pushed the story from scandal to scheme. State and regional press picked it up. What began as a neighborhood feud had become a nationwide cautionary tale. Someone monetizing intimidation and legal manipulation under the cover of civic duty. The business plan documents revealed glossy marketing for a $299 online course titled HOA, Authority Mastery, Advanced Community Management for Leadership-Minded Presidents. The pitch framed it as professional development for HOA officials who understand that strong leadership requires decisive action and creative enforcement. Modules covered psychological pressure tactics, business elimination methods, equipment procurement for enhanced control, and authority maintenance through carefully crafted documentation. What she was really offering was a playbook for systematically ruining neighbors' lives under the disguise of legitimate leadership. Her video content was equal parts riveting and horrifying, openly teaching harassment techniques packaged as management training. Karen presented her spike strip stunt as case study number 1, effective property rights enforcement through traffic control. Step by step, she walked viewers through procurement fraud, permit forgeries, and installation methods while portraying it as an official process instead of blatant crime. Her lesson on contractor elimination was chilling. The secret, she said straight into the camera, was making the destruction look like professional failure rather than neighborhood interference. In effect, she was teaching people how to commit felonies while cloaking them in paperwork and regulations. Regional coverage ballooned into statewide attention once reporters realized Karen had been planning to market these methods nationwide. Her training scheme became a symbol of everything broken in suburban governance: power with no oversight, private authority with no accountability. One legislator told a local news anchor, her materials prove she saw leadership as personal power and profit, not service. Karen's crimes were suddenly part of a larger debate about HOA reform. The legal stakes escalated too. Those recordings weren't just circumstantial. They were detailed documentation of conspiracy, fraud, harassment, and commercial interference. A federal prosecutor's dream. She had essentially filmed herself confessing to felonies while teaching others to replicate them. Beth pointed out, this isn't just criminal activity, it's a business model built on organized abuse. That moved Karen's case from local harassment to potential federal enterprise charges carrying decades of prison exposure. Meanwhile, Dave Williams seemed like a man set free. With investigators, he was open and relieved, explaining how he'd secretly documented his wife's behavior for months because he feared where it was heading. He described her next phases: more installations, review campaigns, even surveillance plans, all intended to make the neighborhood unlivable for dissenters. Filing separation papers, Dave left her house and her schemes behind, handing over evidence that showed the extent of Karen's ambitions. Attorneys combed through hours of footage, procurement hacks, forged permits, outreach to consultants, even marketing scripts for expanding to other communities. The prosecutor summarized it plainly. Mrs. Williams attempted to market organized crime disguised as HOA training. This far exceeds any neighborhood dispute. Her carefully staged curriculum had effectively built the government's case for them. But the neighborhood began healing fast once Karen was gone. Marcus was elected president unanimously, promising open records and genuine improvement instead of intimidation. HOAs should unite communities, not weaponize authority, he said in his first address. The shift felt like a dictatorship falling overnight, replaced by transparency and cooperation. Advocacy groups seized on the case too. Karen's videos, ironically, became teaching tools, shown in workshops about spotting abuse and stopping power grabs before they metastasize. Her recordings are the clearest evidence we've ever had of how HOA roles can be exploited, said a community rights coalition rep. The scandal that was meant to spread authoritarian tactics ended up fueling reforms and stronger homeowner protections across the state. The training videos alone were enough to prove Karen ran a criminal enterprise. But when the city attorney opened her business plan folder, he found contracts with HOA companies in 12 states. She wasn't just targeting our neighborhood. She was trying to take her harassment model nationwide. If she had succeeded, Millions of homeowners could have been trapped in her system of monetized intimidation. Monday's court hearing became the turning point. Karen pled guilty to multiple violations, fraud, and harassment. In exchange for avoiding federal prison time, she received 6 months of community service, $5,000 in fines, restitution for damages, and a lifetime ban from HOA leadership. You betrayed the trust of your community, the judge declared. You weaponized authority for profit, not service. Ironically, her punishment forced her to pay restitution using profits from her so-called training videos. The very materials she created to profit from destroying lives ended up funding the recovery of her victims. Beth summed it up, that's real karma. She financed her own downfall. With Karen gone, the neighborhood changed immediately. Marcus was elected HOA president and set policies for transparency, open meetings, and collaboration. HOAs should unite neighbors, not intimidate them, he said. It felt like watching a dictatorship fall, replaced with democracy on a suburban scale. Property values bounced back quickly as the scandal gave way to stories of reform and resilience. Realtor Jennifer Miller reported buyers were once again eager to live here, attracted by a community that had proven it could hold corrupt leaders accountable. Karen's downfall didn't just help us, it fueled statewide reform. Legislators used her training videos to push new HOA oversight laws requiring transparency, financial accountability, and fair appeals. Councilwoman Sarah Chun explained, her case shows exactly why oversight is needed. Her own documents became a roadmap for preventing abuse. Meanwhile, my business, once her main target, recovered and thrived. Clients sought me out because I stood up to her intimidation. What she meant for destruction turned into a badge of integrity. Even Dave Williams, free from her control, rebuilt his life in another state, using his skills in legitimate cybersecurity work. As for Karen, she spent her community service hours at the DMV, a reminder of what real authority looks like, serving people, not crushing them. The spike strips were gone, melted into scrap metal instead of weapons. And our neighborhood became proof that fighting back against corruption works. Sometimes, defeating tyranny doesn't just protect one block. It inspires reform for thousands of communities. If this story opened your eyes to what's possible when people fight back, share it with others facing abusive HOAs. Remember, you have more power than they want you to believe. Justice is possible when neighbors stand together.